Hi, everybody. It's Connie, and I want to come to you today and talk to you about a serious subject, and that is cancer and surviving and dealing with and coping. And so I want to share a few things with you this morning. First of all, you knew, if you saw my last video, you knew that I had surgery on my hip last week for basal cell, and the spot was about the size of a nickel, and he took out 2 inches around it. And then my neighbor down the street had some basal cell on her chest. No, it wasn't basal cell. It was precancerous. And so he froze those off. I also had, you can see this spot right here. It was precancerous, and so he froze that. However, he said, had I waited another 2 months, this would have been the same report back as my hip. So he caught this one in time, not the hip. And so I go back in 2.5 weeks. Well, it'll be 2 weeks tomorrow, to get the stitches out. And then yesterday, my oldest daughter, who's 58 or 59, I forgot. Anyway, about that age. And life is going good for her right now. Things are great. And she's a beautiful woman. She's a very girly girl. And I'm a girly girl with foo-foo kind of stuff, but she's just like, I don't know, totally girly girl. There's a difference. It's hard to explain. And so her husband had seen a spot on her back near her shoulder blade. And so she went in and she had that checked, and they did a biopsy on it. And what I found out was he found it several months ago, and he kept looking at it and touching it, and he kept saying, it just doesn't seem right. And she kept ignoring it, and then he noticed there was a red ring around it that was not there previously. And so she finally made an appointment and went in, and she got the results back yesterday, and it's melanoma. And so she's getting surgery on the 28th of this month for that. And he says he thinks he got it, that they caught it in time, but he's really urgently moved up the date so that they could get the surgery done right away. And before I go any further with any other stories, I want to say that she goes to that because she's a girly girl from head to toe. She goes to the tanning beds. I don't know how often, at least once a week. She's always the same color, and it's darker than me. And so she's always tanning. And this dermatologist said that spot was from the sun, but I wonder if it was from a fake sun, the tanning bed. And so I want to encourage you that if you or anyone you know does any tanning beds, or they are in the sun a lot, encourage them to go to the dermatologist and just have their body checked. She now has to have her body checked every 3 months. And my basal cell, he found 2 of them, this one and the one on my hip. Again, like the one on her back, the one on my hip, I don't see. And so I can't tell how it's doing. So a lot of times there's spots that show up that we can't see. And that's why it's important that you go into the dermatologist, I would say at any age, but especially after 40 or 50, and have your body checked like every 6 months. just to make sure nothing is showing up so that you can catch everything in a reasonable amount of time. You know, we go in for mammograms. Do that too. I really want to encourage you guys to do that because I've got my friend down the street. I've got another neighbor down the street that just had 2 basal cells taken off of his arm. I've got my own situation, and I've got my daughter, and now my younger daughter is concerned, and she's 53, and so she's going in to have her, that makes my older daughter 59 because they're 6 years apart. And so she's going to make an appointment with the dermatologist and go in and have her body checked as well. She has a couple of things she's going to have them looked at and have her body checked. And he said he wants to check mine when I go back in to have the surgery. So those are some situations that have loomed themselves in front for me with myself and people that I'm close to that I know. And then I have a neighbor friend that has become a companion for me. He's really been a big help. He helped to nurse me through COVID and things like that. He has just been recently diagnosed with prostate cancer. And he had no symptoms, nothing wrong whatsoever. And so he's had 2 tests. And the second test showed that there's some, because they want to make sure before they proceed with any procedures, they want to make sure if it's contained in the prostate. And so the second test they ran showed something on his ribs. And it could be the cancer that's now outside of the prostate. It could be a lot of other things, arthritis, a couple of other things that it could be. So he's having another test done tomorrow, and this is the final test to find out if anything on the rib cage is of concern. If not, then he will go into treatment. And so his life will be forever changed. But if it's contained, then he can have a life. It's just going to be different. And so with that one, I want to encourage you that if you have any men around you that you're close to, after the age of 50, I really want to suggest that we encourage all of our men around us after the age of 50 to go in and have a PSA test done. And if they've had one done prior to this, then get the results of both. And a lot of times the doctor will say, oh, your numbers are fine. Ask the doctor for those numbers and go in every year and have your PSA test taken. Because you need to know what that number is, because the doctor may think you're fine, but you may decide that it's at a point where you want to have it checked, even if the doctor says it's fine. And you have that right to do that. So if you know any men, I encourage you to have their PSA checked, keep that number handy, and then go in annually and have it checked. And if it starts to go up, maybe go in twice a year to have it checked. So the PSA is one sign, and another sign is having trouble going to the bathroom, where you go more often and then you have trouble going once you get there, things like that. So encourage your men. You know, it's up to us a lot of times because men won't do it. They don't think about it. So if you have any sons, if you're remarried, if you have any brothers, cousins, neighbors, encourage them if they're over the age of 50 to get their PSA done and keep the records and go in and have it done. And on a more serious even note so far, because those aren't, I don't know about my daughters and I don't know about my friends. So on a heavier note, I had a friend in the neighborhood where I live, and she was, I'm not sure she was even 60 yet. If she was, she just barely was. And 6 months ago, she was diagnosed. She felt fine. She was healthy, doing great. And 6 months ago, she was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And within 6 months, she's gone. So we have lost her. We have lost that void in the neighborhood. And then my latest loss is just a wonderful woman. She was 34 years old, and she was the #1 in her in the network marketing industry. She was worth a lot of money. She had made good money. She had invested her money in other traditional businesses and things. She was a coach, and she supported everybody. And she lived life full out. You've never seen a woman or a person live life every day full out, just going for it every single day. I can't describe everything. She just was a wonderful woman and loved by everybody she touched, and that was everybody. She touched us all. I did not have a personal relationship with her, but I was in her coaching program, and just watching her on all of her different channels that she was on, and Facebook and Instagram and all of those. She was a life to be reckoned with. She was a force of energy. And she had met the man that she wanted to marry. And because she had all the money to do anything she wanted, she's like, I'm going to go in and have a complete workup from head to toe. Any test that's available they can do, because insurance won't pay for a lot of them. She's like, I'm just going to pay for it. And I'm just going to have it done. And I'm going to make sure that my body is completely and totally healthy to go into the second phase of my life with a spouse and children and all of that. And so she went in and she had all of these tests done. And this was November, December. She had all those done. In February, she got one of the last tests back with a diagnosis of colon cancer. Stage 4, aggressive colon cancer. And so they said, we'll go in, operate, and take care of it. So she's like, okay, great, we'll go in. So she went in, she scheduled the surgery, she went in, they operated, and then they came back and said, which is, I think, typical once they operate like that, we didn't get it all. It's very aggressive. You need to immediately go into radiation, chemo, and all that stuff. And she said she was not a woman of medicine. She preferred natural remedies for everything that she could. And so she said to them, if I do your radiation and your chemo, how long will I live? And they said, maybe January, February of the following year, which would have been 2024. She said, how long if I don't do your radiation and chemo? And they said, you'll be dead by October. And she said, I would rather live my life full out instead of drugged up with all your stuff and laying around with no energy. I would rather live my life and spend my money with any natural treatments that might or might not work, but I'm willing to try them, and live my life full out. And so that's what she did. And she had people in her team and some of her coaching clients that she took them on trips. She paid for everything. She paid for their airplanes. She paid for all of their hotels, anything she did for them. She paid it all. And she went overseas herself a couple of times. She took treatments overseas. She took treatments in the U.S. She really did all she could do naturally. And she passed away last Saturday. We lost a huge light for a lot of us in this profession. and even others that were not in my profession, because she coached every type of business owner, everybody. So it was a really hard loss, and it was sudden because they had just told her that her test reports came back, they were looking good, and we'll do another test in 6 months. Well, in the meantime, she'd been having some extreme kidney pain, and they told her that it was kidney stones. Did they know and they were just telling her it was kidney stones? I don't know. But anyway, it turned out to be that the cancer had spread, of course, and it was in her kidneys and other areas. And so she went in the hospital like Thursday. Some friends that I know visited her on Friday. And when they went in to visit her, she said they told us that this woman had told them, they say my body is failing. And in the next sentence, she's like, I've got to get treatment. I've got to get out of here. I've got things to do. I've got people to support, people to help. I've got a life planned. I got to get out of here. That was Friday. And she passed on Saturday. She had a coaching call on Thursday or Friday for another group other than mine. And she could not do the call. She was in the hospital. And so she had a very talented friend do the coaching call. And she came in at the end of the coaching call and told them the same thing. And then left them. It's really hard to do. She left them with a positive closing statement for the last time they would hear from her, to keep on going. And so I tell you those two stories to tell you that besides having your body checked for any skin cancers and the men having their PSA checked, you have to go in for your other things and have them checked. And I will tell you, I am not up to date on mine. And at 80, they really don't do as much for you. They figure you're on borrowed time at 80 and maybe even 75. And so they just don't do as much for you unless you have a problem. And so I just went in to my regular doctor and for a physical. The physical consisted of her listening to me. She checked my ears, she checked my throat, she checked my heart and lungs, and said, it's been a long time since you've had a colonoscopy. I think I'm going to set an appointment for you with the doctor, and you can have an appointment and discuss it and see whether it's something that you and the doctor want to move forward with for you or not. And that was it. She ordered blood work. She said, oh, you're probably fine now. Yes, I look healthy. I am healthy. I'm very grateful that I'm doing as well as I'm doing, and that I know that my nutrition that I've been putting in my body for the last 20 years has made a difference. And I put 2 meal replacement shakes in my body every day for 20 years, along with some liquid vitamins and different things. And so I know that I'm doing what I can nutritionally to be in the peak of health. But I know things can still happen. And the other thing is, even if today we pick up and we start being healthy and we start being proactive with ourselves, you have to remember that however many years that you have been eating before you got educated on how to eat, that you've been putting a lot of bad stuff in your body. A lot of good stuff, but the more years that come, the food's just not as good. And so we've put a lot of bad stuff in our body. I mean, I raised my kids on, in the cupboard was Hostess cupcakes, Ding Dongs, Twinkies, Fruity Pebbles, Lucky Charms. All that stuff is poison to our bodies. But I didn't know that. It was the era when it was all being introduced. And so my youngest daughter raised her kids the same way. And it's really hard now. I'm trying to get them to see a different vision, and it's hard. And I know this is going long. I just wanted to get this message out. Have your test done. And the other thing I want to say is, if you're still listening to me, live every day full out. This last story that I just told you, her name was Jessie Lee. And live like Jessie Lee did. Live every life full of energy, full of joy. Whatever is in the past, whatever our griefs are, whatever our losses are, we have to move forward. Never move on, but move forward. And start living life full out for whatever God has for us. He does not expect us to stay in our bubble and grieve for the rest of our life until we go home. He wants us to get up and get started. And that's what I'm doing. And so I just want to encourage all of you. I want to let you know that it just seems to be rampant out there right now. There seems to be a lot of cancers and different kinds of health issues going on for people. Is it residual because of COVID or, and our diets? I don't know, but there just seems to be a run on it, and I don't like this run. So I really want to encourage you to think about some of the things I said and make some changes, all right? So with that, I want to thank you for listening, if you're still here. And I just want to bless you today and know that God loves you. And if nobody else tells you today, I love you too. Have an awesome day. Be blessed. And I forgot my little clicker, so I'm going to reach over here and click this off, all right? I love you guys. Feel free to share anything you want to share below, any tips, ideas, any losses of your own. Feel free to share. Have a blessed day. Bye-bye.